The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Fridays here. It's Hail Varsity. It's Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. Hope you're doing all right. I hope you're geared up. I don't know that we can guarantee you another playoff endeavor that matches or exceeds last night's classic between Notre Dame and Penn State. But here's to you. Hope it happens. 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in. 800-825-5865. You want to dial up? Welcome to do it. Hope you're locked in for a good football weekend. Speaking of locks, we are going to reach out to you for another direction, helping hand, so to speak, with the parlay. Elijah has some ingenious ideas to help pay for a bachelor party. We'll get there. Let's parallel things with Nebraska and Notre Dame and even Penn State. Is what you saw from both Notre Dame and Penn State give you hope as a Nebraska fan that playoff runs are not that far away? And we'll check in on the NFL schedule and get some wild card wildness. On the way, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 Sports. In about 15 minutes, we'll spend time with the Pride of Fairbury. Bill Doleman will join us. Billy D at 5:05. Jacob Padilla, some thoughts on Nebraska. And of course, Creighton and the high school weekend slate. And then at 5:40, he is imaginary. He wears red. The infamous Clausborne with the Friday forecast. Always find us on YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow. And Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, when you search Hail Varsity Radio. Steve is going to get us kicked off. Steve, what do you got?
Hello, Chris and Elijah. I know you guys have a full plate, as always, but just a quick things real quickly. First off, I thank you, Chris and Elijah, for the outstanding sports journalism that you guys produce on your great Husker Varsity Radio program.
Steve, appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Big J journalist, Chris and Elijah.
And I have decided now that I'm spreading the word of such to many people as possible, my friends and or other people, for them to consider tuning in to 5900 AM to listen to your Hail Varsity Radio program. And I'm going to start that in great earnest starting this weekend, letting people know, and I'll keep you updated on that progress. And one final thing, Chris, talk to us just a bit, as I know you shall, about that great comeback by Notre Dame last night. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, Steve. Hey, nice of Steve, loyal dude, big-time sports fan. Appreciate him tuning in. Can hear us different spots on the radio dial across the Hail Varsity Radio Network. I thought Notre Dame was in trouble, Elijah. They're down 10-0. Nothing was working. Penn State's offensive line was killing them at the point of attack. Edge-wise, there was really no answer. And then Notre Dame got a bit of a spark. The backup came in.
The Italian stallion.
Right on. The Italian stallion said, forget about it. I'm going to start just slinging it. And he got him a field goal. Riley Leonard said, cut me, Mick. Give me some smelling salt so I can go back in, because this dude may ride off into the sunset. But that ability to kind of open things up throwing the football, even by the backup, kind of reminded me of when Behringer came in and Nebraska got moving offensively in the 95 Orange Bowl. Tommy was money with the option game in the fourth quarter, but it was a passing game that loosened things up a little bit. Anywho, Riley Leonard made enough plays, made enough throws. Notre Dame's adjustments at halftime, or just the fact they got scared by Coach Freeman at halftime, whatever you want to call it, they tackled better. They were better at the lines of scrimmage. They were better on the edge, and then they were really quite good running the football. So there's a little bit of a half-count delay by the Irish running game in that second half. Really liked both squads. I mean, I know Penn State went dormant for a little bit after they jumped up 10-0. It was 17 straight by Notre Dame. Then Penn State scored 14 straight. I mean, it was back and forth. Listen, for Penn State to not have this is weird to say, not have a game changer at wide receivers, different. They usually have somebody that's going in the first 3 rounds. Nobody seemed to get open yesterday. Warren was good, but Aller, and I know he doesn't have a lot of career interceptions, but I just thought when push came to shove, and I'm going to victory lap this, I thought he'd make a mistake. It's not that Riley was perfect. He had a couple of picks. One we thought was back-breaking to the defensive end that dropped on that zone blitz, but Notre Dame got the pick when they had to have it. They drove, and they got Jeter to do the walk-off thing. So, no, it was awesome football last night. It was great football. The team I wanted to win ended up winning. I wouldn't have been upset about Penn State, but I thought put yourself in the head coach's headset for a moment, Elijah, and would you be conservative or aggressive? Penn State was aggressive when you had overtime there, so it's easy to hindsight it, but that was just a really bad throw and a bad decision by Aller with that interception as he was under pressure and ends up getting Notre Dame in field goal range after a couple of plays made to get Jeter the winner for 3.
And there wasn't much that separated those teams last night, but you started off with the great separator, and that was quarterback play. I said yesterday I just wanted a good football game, and I'd be happy no matter the result. We got that. Was happy to see that game last night. It was fun to watch. But the difference was quarterback play. Drew Aller, I was talking him up this week. I thought he was going to come in and play well. He didn't. It was Leonard that was making the NFL throws in that second half. And I mean, you saw Notre Dame's offense, the spark they got from him. Yes, he makes the big mistake, and he gets up and owns it post-game as well, saying, well, I'm the guy that put our team in a crappy spot there late in the game, so I'm happy to have other guys step up and make me look good. But it's not like he wasn't making great throws of his own accord. Great decisions, great throws. He went and won Notre Dame that football game with the difference now he played from half 1 to half 2. Half 1, it felt like he was just a glorified extra running back with how he was throwing the football. Something clicked for him at halftime. I'm not sure if
called competition.
I'm not sure if it was competition. I'm not sure if they got some film work. I'm not sure if it was just a matter of settling into the game. But he came out and he looked like a different player in the second half, and that was the difference, was the big-time throws that he was making. You tip your cap to Notre Dame. I'm not sure how they're going to match up with either Ohio State or Texas, no matter who wins tonight, but it was a good game last night, and for once, I think I'm happy to see Notre Dame playing in the national championship game. They deserve it. No,
I hear you. 489-1240 to get in, and I'm good with Notre Dame getting in. I don't dislike Notre Dame. KG said Drew Aller more like Drew Alert because he's going to make a terrible throw. Am I right? Well done, KG. Tip your waiter, try the veal. We'll get our starting 5 shout-outs going here. But they could have gone sideways. They could have finger pointed. They could have had implosion. I mean, to a guy, I mean, there were murmurs around the sports talking head world. You know, you go to the old 6th floor, it's halftime of Nebraska's game against Colorado, and the talk, aside from Nebraska's lead, was what the hell happened to Notre Dame against Northern Illinois? That gets dudes fired, and it does, except Marcus Freeman's a guy that just, and he said it at halftime last night. He said it every time they had a sideline interview or a post game with him last night. It was, I said, don't panic, it'll be okay. So he was calm. I like Max Bola being on their staff. He's the old Michigan State linebacker, if you remember from the D'Antonio years. He's their linebacker coach. Al Golden is a guy that was written off for dead after Miami, right? He was able to win at a tough spot in Temple, got the Miami gig, was ran out of Miami, and then all of a sudden, look how well his defense has played all year and how physical they were. So this is a good story with Al Golden and what he's done with the Notre Dame defense. And quite honestly, the Notre Dame brass, right? Notre Dame's always wanted to make a splash. There is that aura of, we're Notre Dame and you're not. We kind of touched on that yesterday. But with the Irish, they made the right call. The athletic director and the people in power understood, all right, once Brian Kelly left us, what's best, what's next for this program? They can go hire whoever they want. And they look and say, okay, the defensive coordinator's the heartbeat of this football team. That's the guy that the players want to play for. That was back in 2001. So I say kudos to Notre Dame for making a hire and promoting Freeman because it's paid off. So I've laid out a lot of things here, and you just wonder if there's any parallels here if you're a Nebraska fan with Nebraska and maybe they're the next air quote blue blood to make a jump. Penn State's always been knocking on the door. Notre Dame they've been to the playoff before in the 4-team era. So there's still some wood to chop clearly for Nebraska, but I don't know. I look at some things with Nebraska and I look at Notre Dame and I look at Penn State. Elijah, the roster is not what Ohio State or Texas has. And right now, Notre Dame's in the championship game. Well, they have survived and advanced.
Well, just something to mention here. The fact that Brian Kelly, I think it was in his introductory press conference at LSU when he talked about making the move, was he said he wanted to go to a program that had a better shot of playing for the national championship year in, year out. Kind of poetic justice to see Marcus Freeman take Notre Dame to the national championship while Brian Kelly is yet to make the playoff at LSU. Something about that seems right, but that's also kind of just, a lot of people have said Nebraska has got no shot of making a college football playoff. Nebraska's got no shot of reclaiming its old glory. And let's not kid ourselves. Marcus Freeman, much better starting point than Matt Rule's had at Nebraska.
Sure.
But a lot of people say the same thing with the strength of schedule with Notre Dame. Well, once the playoff comes and they play actual good teams, they're going to get exposed. People don't want to play for the brand that is Notre Dame like they did back in the 1970s and 1980s. It's not the same.
Guess what, dude? He's finding the right guys who want to play for him.
There it is.
Find the right dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has. Absolutely has. Riley Leonard's a winner. Xavier Watts is a winner. Think about this too. You lost a quarterback and 2 starting offensive linemen. And your quarterback came back, but you did it with backups too. Last night on the offensive line.
Yeah. A true freshman start. You had a true freshman.
Yeah. On the left tackle, right? So it's a remarkable story. I think you got to smile about that. They've gone from likable to maybe they become memorable. They're already memorable because they're in a part of an incredible playoff game that was just back and forth. Penn State, it's not supposed to go that route because they were one more score away from probably putting it away. And Notre Dame just wouldn't go away. So love it. We'll get BC's thoughts and Doleman's thoughts as well. Elijah, we got to get our starting 5. And then I want to focus in on this parlay because you got a bachelor party coming up.
Yeah, and end of February down in Scottsdale. My buddy Grant's getting married.
Are you doing more sake bombs?
Hopefully not. If I do, it won't be on Twitter this time. But no, we have the Airbnb all picked out. We're going to be booking it this weekend. And the thought is, and the question I think to our stream listeners is it a worthy endeavor to try and all pitch in, say $10, $15 and throw it on an NFL wildcard weekend parlay to try to pay off that Airbnb?
I love it. Because it's what, $10, $15?
$10, $15 somewhere in there. We're looking for about $100 parlay. The 5 legs that I have circled right now are Vikings money line over the Rams.
Okay, all right.
Buccaneers money line over the Commanders.
Love it.
Chargers money line over the Texans.
Love it.
Packers money line over the Eagles. That's the one that might get a little hairy. The Packers always surprise people in the postseason. Everyone thought the same thing was going to happen last year when they went up against the Cowboys in that offense. And what happened? The Packers.
No, I think Green Bay is really good, but I think Jalen Hurts and Saquon running the football and passing sparingly is too much.
Jordan Love, he's got a little Brett Favre in him. You can't forget that. And Brett Favre stepped up for the big-time moments. It feels like a 5-touchdown, 3-interception kind of.
He's got a lot of Brett Favre in him as far as being injury-prone.
That too. But then the final leg on that is Broncos +9 against the Bills.
Your heart versus your head, my friend.
9's too many points.
Well, Buffalo's defense is a little more Swiss cheesy.
KG chimes in to say, "Go Pack, go!" But I wouldn't bet a penny on my Pack to win.
I like it. The other Dave is in. Appreciate you, Dave, for checking in here. The starting 5 shout-outs. Jay is here. Great Red Shark says hello. Coach Brandon, it's Friday. Captain. Captain says, I hate giving bad advice. The Penn State's quarterback failed me. Therefore, I fail you. The Catholics are making me a believer. Love it, Captain. Grateful Red is here. Patrick says, hola. Patrick, hola to you. Hola, Spicoli. Patrick, good to have you back in. Walter B. says hello. James Little Game Franklin is 1-15 versus the top 5. And Marcus Freeman's won 9 straight. Tim is in. Anonymous is here. Kobe, Uncle Larry. More shout-outs on the way. Brian Christopherson with us next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
With your Friday edition, it's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel can find us on the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube to watch the show. Hear us across the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Mike, check it in from the pump handle in Kansas. Good for you, Mike. Mike and Callie is here. Mike, be safe, brother. Anonymous says, give Penn State a roster to a coaching staff that's actually good, and they run away with the title. So we can dial in on some of the Nebraska Notre Dame / Penn State parallels moving forward. Brian Christopherson with us here from Husker 24/7 Sports. BC, happy football weekend, man. Thanks for a few minutes. How we doing?
I'm doing outstanding, and it is a great football weekend, so I'm in a good mood.
Same here. What'd you think of last night? Were you polling for anybody? I guess let me start there.
No, I wouldn't say so. I was just pleased that I was in the class that was just polling for a tight game after the first rounds of the playoffs. You know, a few of them had been runaways. It was nice to be sitting there at the 2-minute timeout, having no idea how it would go. It was kind of two teams. It was like the Spider-Man meme. I feel like they were kind of pointing at each other the way they both played. And so it was kind of a fitting game that it went down to the finish. But, you know, whenever Notre Dame is around, whether you love them or hate them, it brings the ratings and it brings more attention to the game, I think. So that's not a bad thing.
I mean, what do you make of the fact that, I talked last segment about the fact Brian Kelly, one of the reasons he said he went off to LSU was the chance to win a national championship and be in contention year in, year out. The prevailing opinion with Notre Dame was, well, they're not in a conference. That's going to hurt them in the long run. They're not going to get that first-round bye. They're not going to have the strength of schedule. And now Notre Dame, in the first year of the 12-team playoff, is off to the national championship game. What do you make of that? It almost feels like, believe it or not, with Notre Dame, almost an underdog story. Can I say that?
I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but it just goes to show you get the right coaching and a team that believes in its head coach and the staff around it. Not saying Brian Kelly's won a lot of football games in his career too, but Marcus Freeman's just done an incredible job for a guy as relatively young in the profession as he was when he took over one of the toughest places, I think, to coach. Because think of there's been people who have had success that have went there and failed miserably. You can think of like Charlie Weiss and Tyrone Willingham, and there's been some real collisions in taking that job. And when Marcus Freeman was hired, I didn't know exactly how it would go. I thought it was an intriguing hire, but I wasn't just going to bet on the success they've had. So I just when he talks, and I think when you watch him on the sideline, just sort of the patience and control he has, even in tight situations. I'm always impressed by coaches who have that trait. I think it's so meaningful, especially when you get to these type of games, and it calms their team. And their teams like that, for whatever reason, they tend to pick up after their coach, and then they play, I think, well in those tight spots.
Brian Christopherson's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Husker 24/7 Sports. BC, any parallels at all you see with Nebraska and Penn State and Notre Dame? I mean, and what I mean by that is they're neither squad is Ohio State's roster or even Texas's roster, but anything Nebraska fans can maybe take away from not just last night's game, but both of those programs compared to where Nebraska's at?
You can get off the mat. You always have to remind yourself that. And I know it's been a long drought, and it's felt like they're so distant from playing in those type of games, and in a way they are. But also, I mean, let's bring Indiana into the conversation. They make a jump, from a losing program to being in the playoffs this year. And I do think the way it's set up now, if you can bring in the right additions each year and you have a certain chemistry and a way of doing things that people buy into, you can turn it around quickly. And I was just looking at, Matt Rule's numbers. Everybody always talks about the third-year jump, and some people roll their eyes and say, well, this is a different deal than what was happening at Temple or Baylor. It's a different time in college football. But he's 31-10 in his third year and beyond as coaches. He's had 3 seasons where he's been in his third year or more, and he's gone 31-10 in those seasons. And so he has always made a jump. I think you watch these playoff games and some of the teams who are in them, you can say, I didn't necessarily think Penn State. I know Penn State's been around the rankings for a while now under James Franklin, but I remember after the Paterno thing, people had that as a program that never come back, and the scholarship situation they had under Bill O'Brien. So they definitely got off the mat when some people didn't expect that to happen. And Notre Dame's been down and out, as some of the coaches I mentioned have proven, and they've been able to rise up. So there's always that possibility to turn the corner. I think there's hope within the Husker walls that they can do a similar thing. I think they were kind of even hoping they could have maybe done that this year. They didn't, but we'll see if some of the new additions can spark that extra step they need to take to be in that conversation.
Brian Christopherson with us here. And Brian, the portal season is never done. That's what it feels like in modern college football, where it's you got it going now, and maybe it's winding down, but then spring football is going to hit. Here comes another round of portal guys, and who knows what the summer entails. But as it stands right now, which portal guy or guys are you most intrigued by? Which guys do you think we're going to be talking about the most come fall?
Okay, that's great question. I'm going to move right past the wide receivers because I think they immediately change the starting rotation, and I think a lot of people nod their head to that, right? Like Dane Key and those guys, and Isaiah Hunter. So let's look elsewhere. Marquez Watson-Trent, I thought was a big addition from Georgia Southern. Just the fact that it's a guy who, for 3 years in a row piled up more than 110 tackles, has been very durable and available for them, and I just think is going to be a guy who comes with a chip on his shoulder. Those guys who have been at a different level but want to show, I can play in the power conferences too. I know I can. So I think he's interesting. I wrote last night about him. His dad was, running backs coach, associate coach for Notre Dame, but Desan McCullough, I think the big thing with him is he just needs good health to ride with him, because last season at Oklahoma, he was really poised to take off from his 2023 year. Then he had sort of a foot injury that happened in the summer. It took him out of the first half of the season. He didn't probably get he only played like 170 snaps, but he's a versatile guy that I have to think John Butler and the staff is really anxious to just see how they could move him around. He played like a cheetah position at OU and a will linebacker, and they moved him all over the field. So he's a guy you can do a lot of things with. And then I think Williams Winneri, that's a 5-star prospect who was top 10 in all recruiting rankings just a cycle ago. And I know Missouri fans on his way out the door be like, he wasn't doing anything anyway. He's playing one of the tougher positions in college in sports to get on the field right away when you move up a level. So it's not a shock that he didn't just play lights out as his first year. I think it's very exciting for Nebraska that they got him on campus, and he's, maybe he's a development guy, but with the traits he has, that development could come faster than it does for others.
Brian Christopherson with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Husker 24/7 Sports. BC, what do you think with Pritchett? Do you think Nebraska play him at right tackle or move him to left? And I ask that because, people got all over Pritchett's Pro Football Focus numbers. The guy switched from left to right tackle after a game this year and kind of went John Wayne, right? I mean, had to learn an opposite spot on the fly against the SEC. So do they keep riding with the right, or do they just kind of hope to bank on, all right, you've played both, so be better at both? What do you think?
Well, I think it matters who or if they add another one here, which I think is entirely possible. I know they've been looking at the New Mexico State guy, and even beyond him, it's not necessarily over as far as adding another tackle. So maybe you have to sort that out with after the dust settles, like who's here and all that. I think as it stands right now, I would think he's at left, just because of his experience with that and all that. But, that's an interesting conversation. The guy that I think Husker fans need to not forget about while talking all about the portal players is someone like Gunnar Gatula, who got a lot of snaps in. I thought did really exceedingly well for a first-year starter. I mean, think about like Bryce Benhart, like a few years back, guys. You remember how much he got razzed for some games he had where he got, he got taken to school a few times and had to learn his lessons. And then the last couple of years of his career, you didn't see that as much. So with a guy like Pritchett, he's sort of entering that phase in his career where you hope you can settle him in one spot this offseason, whether it's left or right. He gets all those reps in the runway building into the fall, as opposed to, as you mentioned in your question, switching in season. It's a whole different animal if he gets a full period of working on it through spring and fall camp at a certain spot. So I'm optimistic about him because I think he's one of those guys who the ceiling is so high that it's worth taking that chance on him and believing that you can develop him. And if you can get the most out of him, he's going to be a heck of a player. There's definitely room to grow. There's no question about that. He did have inconsistencies last year. But as Matt Rule said, it sometimes takes O-linemen their third or fourth year of college ball till they really figure it out, sort of like Benhart did. So maybe that's going to be the same timeline with someone like Pritchett.
BC, before we get you out of here, about 30 seconds. Ohio State, Texas, who you got tonight?
I think Ohio State's going to win it all. I just feel like that it's weird how sports work. The Michigan loss was so devastating to them in the moment, but it feels like they're treating their opponents like they're a big like Michigan flag that's been planted on their field when they see them right now. They're just PO'd about it, and I kind of think they're on a mission. So I'm going to take Ohio State tonight, which means you should definitely not bet money on that. But I'll pick the Buckeyes to not only win this one, but next week as well. 5 seconds. You feel good about your Vikes? Not great, but no, I actually think the Rams are going to win. But I'm a pessimist about the Vikings like every week, so it's not even worth asking me. I would say they'd lose to like a junior high team some weeks. That's just how I am as a Viking fan. It's built into me. That sounded sad to hear. BC, have a good weekend, man. It is a better weekend than that sad ending. You guys too.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
So Junior is off to high school basketball here shortly. Locally, we'll be doing the Southwest-Southeast game tonight on KFOR. Tomorrow, we'll be able to cover Creighton Prep and Marion. And as you do see from time to time in high school student sections, they replicate game day, Elijah. So they are going to replicate game day. Junior has grabbed a station tablecloth for their Lee Corso, Saban, McAfee tribute as they make their predictions before tip-off tonight. I shut him down wanting to borrow a headset, but I did let him borrow a tie. So I'm showing up with a station quarter zip. He's showing up with sport coat and tie. Pretty funny.
You gonna give him a headset tonight?
You want a headset? Better not. They're not mine.
I mean, put him on pregame. Put him on the broadcast.
What? I'm hearing two people yell at me. What'd you say, Elijah?
I'm saying you should put him on the pregame broadcast. Get the pregame thoughts with Junior. I'm sure it'll be unbiased.
I would like. We have Coach Jeff Smith, longtime Class A head coach extraordinaire, Husker basketball assistant. I want his thoughts on the pregame, not Junior's, on the matchup. But no, I mean, it'd be kind of fun to pull a Harry Carey. Harry Carey would do Cub games from time to time in the bleachers. They'd set up the gear and he'd do a show, or he'd do a game from the bleachers. And I said, it'd be fun to do the broadcast from the student section. But Junior seemed to hear something about FCC violations.
Yeah,
he was worried for my sake.
Last time, I think, was this last time we covered a Southwest game on the air here locally? I'm pretty sure the entire Southwest.
We did it last winter. We did it last winter.
No, but I'm saying a couple weeks ago, last time we had the Southwest team locally, I'm pretty sure the entire Southwest student section got kicked out. So if you're in the student section,
yeah.
Would you get kicked out with them?
No, Junior was not in the student section that night. Then they went Colorado 2005.
Well, I'm just saying, if that were to happen again and you're doing the broadcast from the student section, would you be ushered out as well?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think they can chop a broadcast mid-flight.
Guilty by association.
I don't know. Well, did they launch both student sections or just you guys? Oh, they just punted the East student section.
No, they punted both.
Both got punted. Yeah, let's talk portal.
I'm pretty sure the police had to get called for that one.
Five officers had to show up
against two whole student sections.
8. Okay, it keeps growing. Pepper spray was deployed. You seem to have survived it. No, he wasn't a part of it. Junior was back hanging in the back.
He didn't have to get pepper sprayed because they already tased him.
And Junior was tased. They didn't need to waste a canister. All right, to football we go. So it looks like Shiaz Pete, it's crystal balled with some of the recruiting services. NASCAR Eric has checked in. Good to have you. Also, Scott. But it sounds like Vandy might be leading here. Is that kind of what we're seeing in the stream? I don't know. I know he visited this week, and Nebraska wants a second tackle. If they don't get Pete, Elijah, there's going to be a tackle or several between FCS and, of course, you got the Ohio State kid that they really like that is in the portal, and then post-spring, there's other options and opportunity, but you ideally want your dudes in for winter conditioning and then spring ball, not post spring.
Well, and as we talked about a couple weeks ago, though, as you talk about offensive line, one of the things, I think it was Coach Barnett who said it, one of the things that this portal era has taken away from a lot of college football teams is depth. Mm-hmm. So is depth along the offensive line, how doable is that, especially given where Nebraska has been for the past decade? That's kind of my question after you got Pritchett, is I know you'd like to get another tackle, how feasible is it to actually have quality depth in the modern college football with the fact that everyone is going somewhere looking for A, a little bit of money, but B, they're looking for playing time? How feasible is that?
It's life-changing money for families. I mean, it's a signing bonus, and it's a 2-year, 3-year deal, quite honestly, with some of these price tags. And Barney was talking yesterday about how you get an experienced offensive lineman from a good program. I mean, that value's astronomical. You are, dare I say it, you may be overpaying for average, or you may be paying for the missing link that takes your O-line from good to great. And I am still having problems wrapping my mind around what Coach Barnett said yesterday, and he's right. And check out the segment, Hail Varsity Radio podcast with Barney. You needed to go take 5 offensive linemen a recruiting cycle. Pray that 3 of them worked out, pray that 1 of them started for multiple years, and pray that 2 of them ended up playing, let alone what Nebraska got with their 1990 and 1991 recruiting class on the offensive line. Right? The pipeline folks that played together for 2.5, 3 years. So I'm still of the mindset where you need to go keep adding and adding and adding and adding. And I don't think you can get away, Elijah, do you, from going the high school route primarily for your offensive linemen. You still got to start there and sprinkle in your portal guys if the accelerated learning curve isn't met by your offensive lineman, and somehow keep them around.
Well, let's look at the portal this year, which this year is even one where with the 105 coming, it's even more dramatic than I think it's going to be moving forward with how many guys are in the portal. How many instant starters did you think that there were in the portal in terms of going to a Power 4 school and you can say that guy's going to be a starting tackle for us or a starting guard? Or
I think you got one in Pritchett.
Well, you got one that you need to be, but like guys that you can say whenever they sign on the dotted line in Sharpie, this is going to be my starter next season. Like we're talking less than 10 total guys in the portal that are that way. And how many schools out there need an instant impact offensive lineman? A hell of a lot more than 10.
Here's what we don't know. Here's what we also don't know. Like, I think if you go to the North Dakota States or South Dakota States or Montana States, or you go to your good FCS programs and you pluck one of their dudes, right? I think you're inking in a starter there. What I don't know is a guy coming from a Power 5, Power 4, or a G5, more so a Power 4 league, in the portal, A, to get paid, but B, because he's a cast-off, right? Is he a cast-off, or is he a guy that's just truly buried on the depth chart? And that's what you hope you're getting, a guy that just was playing behind somebody else and didn't see any daylight, versus a guy that, all right, we've put up with your garbage, or you're not as good as you need to be. You haven't done your part as a player to get on the field. So there's the door. Thanks. That's what college football is now.
Well, and there's plenty of those guys in the portal. For
sure. We'll wind down this first hour. Bill Doleman coming up. Jacob Padilla on the way. Claus next hour as well with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Friday editions here. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. The weekend edition tomorrow at 7:45-ish is we'll rock and roll with Kranak and Elijah, myself, Bill Doleman, and Clausborne next hour, along with Jacob Padilla. 489-1240. Got a little bit of clarity on Pete, the offensive tackle from New Mexico State. The crystal ball with on 3 is not a super high confidence level. And Pete is also checking out Stanford today. Also, Michigan is looming. So this guy's, again, a portal tackle with experience. I don't know that you say, well, he's a guy you got to have, but it's a guy you totally want, especially if it's kind of a shopping list here, Elijah, this this Wild West season before things get a little bit more streamlined, allegedly, this summer.
If you're Pete, are you going somewhere that playing time is not a guarantee next year? Rhetorical question.
I'm going to get paid. Well, what are my NIL stipulations?
What are the NIL stipulations? But also, if you're a guy like him, NFL money is better than NIL money. If you make it into the NFL, if you get to that second contract, NFL money is greater than NIL money.
Oh, for sure.
So I think first and foremost, you're looking for a spot that you have a chance at playing time.
No, for sure. But a lot of these guys can just be on a fifth school or fourth school, get 6 figures and just bank it. And there's your life-changing money, quite honestly. And then it's a good 20s and beyond. I mean, think about us if we'd be in the 6-figure per year category. That'd have been awesome in your 20s if you could handle it right. No, I'll say this: the Stanford education is also life-changing. Michigan's gonna connect you up. That's a high-profile school as well. So that's the other thing you got to gauge here. Are you getting a cast-off, or are you getting a guy that just wasn't seeing playing time, or are you getting somebody that is just you're unsure about? You really don't know how good they are, other than they're available. They might be better, hate to go this route, than what you got.
Oh, no.
Sorry. That's still too soon. But you don't know. You got to kick tires. What really is the issue is, Elijah, you don't want to pay a dude, be wrong, and cut the wrong guy. I mean, you're going to have to make cuts down to 105 before August. How do you go back to your NIL sugar daddy and say, hey, thanks for the blank check. We just putted this dude because he is absolutely garbage.
It's like the Moneyball scene.
Yeah.
Oh, how much do the Yankees like you? They're paying you $12 million a year to play for us.
Huh? That's what they think of you. Pretty good. We'll get to some emails. Chris at hailvarsity.com. More of your comments in the stream. Always like and subscribe. Do so. Hail Varsity YouTube. I like what Mike's saying here. Go after the Montana State tackle. That's a good take right there. Justin is here as well. Bill Doleman is next. Pride of Fairbury on the way on a Friday with Hail Varsity.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's the Friday edition, Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Can we play the ride open for the Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman, as we're seeing Bill on camera, and there's all sorts of expensive and lavish crystals where Doleman is doing the show. So it looks like his, I don't know, that scene in Up in Smoke from Cheech and Chong, where Cheech leans over to Chong and sticks his tongue out and goes, bleh. That's what it looks like, because Doleman's eyes are there and then they're disappearing and then they're reappearing again.
Well,
can we play the ride open?
I can play the open. The thing was I think Bill Doleman's camera feed was compared to a Doppler radar the other day, where the way it flashes. So I wasn't sure. Do we have Bill, I think.
Yeah, Bill, how are you, dude?
I think I'm here, but I'm also in that beam me up Star Trek mode too. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. Fortunately for the average, there I go again. The Average Joe Sports Show at work the other day, so I thought that this spot might work out, but apparently I'm on a 14.4 modem with a Commodore 64 computer, and the AOL dial-up just doesn't work like it used to.
Well, I don't know what half of those words mean, but I can play the right intro. Should we?
Yes, and then we have a question from our dear friend Black Hills Brennan to ask Bill Doleman. Fire away.
He's the pride of Fairbury, an average Joe. Bill Doleman, the professor.
I had a 6 ACT in 1967. One time I got an A and my grandma beat me for cheating.
Now with Hail Varsity Radio.
So Black Hills Brennan, pride of Fairbury, asked the question. We'll talk some portal with you. We'll get your reaction to the Fighting Jim Hansons beating Penn State last night. But Black Hills Brennan asked the question here in the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube. Things I would rather do than cheer for Ohio State or Texas. And Black Hills Brennan says, I would rather sneeze with diarrhea than cheer for Ohio State or Texas.
See, that reminds me of a funny story. Just kidding.
Hold on. Oh, no. Let's be honest. That's all happened to us when we've had the flu.
Don't lump me in here with you.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get beamed up in the middle of this conversation. So,
Bill, let's dial it back from sneezing and diarrhea to just how difficult it is for Ohio State or Texas to have fans in the good life tonight.
Hey, look, I said this on the Average Joe Sports Show, which we recorded the other day and is still available on YouTube. Look, I am rooting for Michigan because I want to see Ohio State win the national championship, and then I want to see Michigan win next November and see the complete apoplectic meltdown in Columbus as to just what to do with Ryan Day. I'm willing to wait another 10 months for that to materialize, right? I think Ohio State is the best team right now. I think that they are playing with purpose, right? I think they're playing for their coach. I think Ryan Day's a decent dude. I mean, he doesn't come across as somebody who's unlikable. So to that end, I feel bad for what he's going through, although not that bad because they've got a $30 million roster, right? And he kind of set the price as to what high-level quarterbacks are, should make when he said, well, it takes $2 million nowadays to have a quarterback, which means the price is going up, and if you want us to have a great quarterback, then that's what we're willing to pay, right? So he kind of set the market. But going through what he's had to go through, losing to Michigan, he's kind of become a sympathetic figure. So go ahead, Ohio State, win a national championship. I root for interesting, okay? And last night's game was interesting. I hope tonight's game is interesting. But I hope in November that Michigan beats Ohio State again because I just want to see the drama that develops in Columbus with another Michigan win over a defending national champion. That's what I root for.
Well, how long does goodwill last from a national championship game? Because we've seen it in different cases. Ed Orgeron's honeymoon lasted 12 months.
The shelf life is brutal now. I mean, look at who's the Yahoo that left Iowa State sub 500 and then went to Auburn, the old defensive coordinator.
Oh, Gene Chiswick. But Bill Callahan called him, I've got a lot of respect for Coach Chickets.
Chiswick was the first guy to get Goodfellas, right? The old scene with
quickly.
Well, let's be clear. Chiswick didn't win a national championship. After Cam Newton,
it was all over.
Chiswick didn't win a national championship. Cam Newton won a national championship. And Gene Chiswick was just along for the ride.
There have been a lot of coaches like that.
Pre-NIL won Auburn a national championship, allegedly.
Right. Yeah.
Mac Brown, he won a title, went to another title, and then they had the slow walk into the empty room, in 2000, what was it, 11 for Mac?
Yeah. Look, a national title can have a very short shelf life if you have not had good rapport before. And, but look, it's part of the deal right now. When, and I think I mentioned this on the show a couple of weeks ago, in the NFL, you can look at a guy like Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, who's got, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to play with. And he can give Deshaun Watson a guaranteed $250 million contract. And people go, that's on you, Jimmy, and laugh it off because that's his cash. And granted, he's got TV money coming in to refill the pockets and all, but it's still his money to do dumb things with. right? When you're talking about NIL money, you're talking about collectives who are continually putting out, ads. Give us, donate, contact us. Here's our hashtag, whatever you can do. Help us help Nebraska or UCLA or Kentucky be more competitive. The dollars that go in are, dare I say, average Joes or average Joes who have done fairly well for themselves. And there's a lot of them, right? So if you put a lot of money into a program and you don't have an immediate good ROI with the player that you're helping to support and the program overall, they're going to come for you quickly, right? Because it's not Jimmy Haslam's money. It's a lot of people's money. And therefore, the shelf life can be a whole lot quicker.
So let me ask this question. Bill Doleman with us, Pride of Fairbury, the professor, Hail Varsity Radio. What is the patience level of your donors and your fans? Because you got to keep swinging. In a good year, you went 50%, didn't you, on the recruiting trail? And these were high school kids that had the reality of having to sit out a year if you were to transfer. That's all gone. You've got inflated prices in some instances. In others, you got game-changing roster additions that take you from being Indiana to a playoff team. So there's good, bad, and ugly with all of it. What do you tell your sugar daddy if you just keep asking for money and your hit rate isn't 50%? Sorry, and I'm just asking out loud because that's if you're good at evaluation, you're 50%. But it feels like with what you're spending, you need to be better than 50%, and I don't know that that's going to happen.
But also with donors, speaking of ROI. What is the financial return to you? For a guy like Jimmy Haslam or Jerry Jones or any other owner in professional sports, you're investing in your team, but you're also putting out a good product where you are reaping the benefits if it's a good product of ticket sales and concession sales and then it's all in the TV money, right? So you are investing into a corporation and you are getting money back because you've invested it to make money. If you're a donor in an athletic department, what is your financial ROI? Your return on investment is essentially maybe you get a firmer handshake the next time you show up in a suite.
I think knowing that you're one of the reasons it's going to get turned around, or your part helped turn it around. I mean, I think that peace of mind, right?
Sure. Then that's rooting for dear old Nebraska or Go Blue or Go Tar Heels or whatever. Yeah, there is that satisfaction that I'm one of the ones who was able to help turn things around, and I made life better for a certain athlete. That's all well and good, but financially, where is the return on that investment for you? That unless you have the deep pockets that just continue to fill because you've made other great investments, and that's certainly possible too. But for the average Joe donor, financially, it is that heartier handshake. Maybe you get a little better, maybe you get the news a little quicker as to who the next special teams coordinator is going to be. Maybe you've got an extra meet and greet, an extra slab of prime rib at the next golf scramble in David City. I don't know. But what I'm saying is people, it's one thing to invest money to get money back in return like you do in the pros, or you get TV revenue. But in the college NIL donor game, it is just the feel good. And how long does the feel good continue to pay the bills to where you start to look at your balance sheet and go, man alive, we do pretty well with our trucking, but gas prices have gone up and the whatever expenses are a little more. We can't do it again. And all of a sudden, maybe you're not getting those sweetheart deals from your donor. That's what we're in right now. Nobody is. There are no collectives in pro sports, right?
No.
So that's why I think the return, not the return, but the shelf life of a national championship and the field goods are not that long, because the more donors you have, the more people you got to keep happy, and if more people aren't happy, then the money's not coming in, and then you're not competitive.
Well, does it help if that donor becomes the official blank sponsor of Husker football?
Does it help?
Yeah. Is that enough return on investment? The backs we'll scratch your back later. You scratch our back now, and we'll give you a great.
Sure. If you're winning and people are paying attention and they know that you've got the best seed in the ag business, sure. But if you're not winning anymore, then people aren't listening anymore. You don't want to necessarily be associated with that program. Not that people don't want to be associated with Nebraska football. Or they don't say, hey, you know what? This rule guy just isn't getting it done. I'm giving my money to Jalen Reyes and the 2029 Nebraska volleyball team. That's where my donor money is going to go, right? Or I love Mark Manning, and let's keep wrestling going because we know that they're always going to be a winner. Maybe they don't give to a football program or a basketball program because they're dissatisfied with the direction. You think right now, if we were in the Mike Riley era of Nebraska football, that the 1890 collective would be as robust as it is right now, and one of the models, probably top 20 or maybe even top 10 collectives in the country. If we were enduring the Riley, Callahan, I'm going to leave the Pelini era out.
No, and here's your difference. Is you've had some maddening losses for sure. You've had some high profile gets not work out. You've also landed one that you're super excited about as he goes into his sophomore season. Difference is you got a really likable guy at Notre Dame that's now winning. You've got a really likable guy in Matt Rule that folks are like, okay, dude, start winning on the field. But overall, he gets it. He gets the face time needed with the big fish, the whales, and the average Joes. Like Rule's Rule. Like he is a guy that gets that part of the job, and that is a game changer for you because there's some guys in the head chair that you tolerate because they're winning or they were picked or they recruit well or ... Well, you've got a guy that has looked at this new era and is doing something about it, not only with his donors or his collective, but also what he's done with his with his staff. He has flipped it. He hasn't hung on to the Cosgroves of the world. He has made changes, and then they're super aggressive. They're trying to go get strength in numbers and options on the lines of scrimmage at the skill spots. So they're working. They're working hard at it. This isn't an infomercial for them. You have that. And that's a good thing for Nebraska because it could be the other way like you're talking about. You could have a coach here that nobody wants to support or believes in anymore after 2 years.
Yeah, and I think, Nebraska has a coach in Matt Rule that enjoys this, to be honest with you.
He's good at it. He's really good at it.
He's a CEO head coach. He gets I think he gets the generation. I think he gets how to glad hand in Ainsworth. I think he knows how to pitch in Omaha, and I think he knows how to make sure we got to, send semi trucks over to Iowa and take the whole group down to Arizona, right? I think he gets all that, and I think just my outside perspective, I think he enjoys it. Now, I think we're all excited about Dana Holgorsen, being Nebraska's offensive coordinator and a guy who's. But do you picture Dana Holgorsen right now, as we've come to know him in just a brief amount of time, and we've seen him over the years, that somebody like Dana Holgorsen is, just can't wait to get out there to hit the trail and to glad hand. I think he's an X's and O's guy, much like Chip Kelly. We've talked about it many times. These are guys who are happy where they are. I'm sure Marcus Freeman enjoys the opportunity of being the head coach at Notre Dame and is very, very good at it. And that when, it comes Sunday and Wednesday night, they are passing around navy blue, gold, and green offering plates, depending on how much people want to give on that particular time of the service, right? So that's why. But James Franklin, it might be kind of tough right now to sell Penn State because they always view them as just not quite enough.
Bill Doleman with us. Billy D, we'll check in with you, brother, on Sunday with the Average Joe Live. All right, partner?
All right, beam me up. Sorry, I didn't have an opinion today.
No, you're good. Appreciate you. Bill Doleman with us. We'll say hi to Jacob Padilla coming up here. Hoops and some portal thoughts as well.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back to it, it's Hail Varsity. Big thanks to Bill Doleman. Big thanks to Jacob Padilla with us from Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports at Jacob Padilla _ can watch this interview as Jacob is in that incredible leather chair. Hail Varsity YouTube's where you watch. Jacob, good to spend some time with you, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Thanks for being a part of it. Before we get into some high school ball and some college basketball thoughts, Elijah has laid out the proposal with his buddies. They have a bachelor party scheduled with some friends in February. To pay for the Airbnb, they are going to put a wild card weekend parlay together. I will let you, Elijah, ask Packer fan Jacob about his Green Bay squad headed to Philly.
Yeah, I live with Packer fans. I've watched them all year long. I don't know. I don't like Nick Sirianni as much as I like Matt LaFleur. Jordan Love, who knows how he'll be, but I feel good about Packers money line. How do you feel?
I feel much better about the playing surface they'll be on compared to the first time these two teams played.
Down in Brazil.
So hopefully that'll have a positive impact on the game itself. But yeah, where I'm at right now is I still believe that Green Bay is good enough to win any game. It's good. They're good enough. They have the pieces where it can click. I just, over the last, this entire season really, but it's just hard to feel comfortable about it coming together. There've been enough issues that have popped up, and the passing game hasn't quite been what we thought it could be. And now you lose Christian Watson, who, while he didn't put up big numbers, was a big part of that and helping get everybody else open with his speed and mixing up the playbook for LaFleur. So losing him hurts in that regard. And hopefully, I think they'll be a little bit healthier on defense. You've got Edgerrin Cooper playing full time now. Hopefully, Evan Williams, I think he's questionable, will be back out there. So those were two guys that didn't play a big role in the first game against Philly when Saquon Barkley just went nuclear. So I feel like they're a little better equipped to have a chance to survive in that matchup. So it's if you're looking for so it's kind of off. It seems like everybody's pretty heavily on the Eagles at this point. If you're looking to just go the opposite the crowd, Green Bay is good enough to get it done. I just don't know that I'd feel comfortable picking them and putting money on them to actually do it in this one game.
It's a big ask to have to go to Philly. Now, Green Bay is good. They've had some wow already with they just don't mess up at quarterback, Jacob. They go from Favre to Rodgers to Love, and I'm not putting Love in the category of those two Hall of Famers yet, but you see the potential, you see the talent. Their evaluation's pretty good.
Well, and Jacob knows that where they're good enough to beat anyone as long as the team they're playing isn't the 49ers, you know?
Wow. You want him to come back next week, don't you, Elijah?
I told him I lived with Packer fans. Packer fans know it. It's been tough against the 49ers in recent years, but no one gave him a chance against the Cowboys last year, and they killed him. So,
yeah. Oh well.
I want to get your thoughts on Nebraska and Purdue looms on Sunday for the Big Red 11 o'clock tip. What do you see, or what do you believe about the loss to Iowa? Is it just a loss? Is it a smack your forehead loss? How have you kind of processed it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't get to watch that in person. I was following along with our Slack messages and texts from people as the kind of craziness ensued. Because I was at Southeast and Northeast, which fantastic game. Glad I was there, but they were up Nebraska was up 15 or whatever, and I stopped paying attention to it. I didn't check back in because I'm worried about the game I'm watching there, so I'm not sitting there on Twitter or have the stats pulled up. And then I started getting messages. I'm like, wait, what? What's going on here? I thought they were in control of this thing. And then Like my brother started giving me a play-by-play of like the bad calls down the stretch, and then somehow Bryce hitting the three to get them to overtime. But then in overtime, obviously things did not go well. So, I mean, you let a guy go out for 30 and a half or whatever it was for Sanford. Like that right there is a lack of attention to detail and focus and doing what needs to be done, making the hard plays to make sure, because like Sanford's a really good shooter. He's not a guy that can create his own a ton that should be able to, it shouldn't be a case where like he can go off while you're locked in on him, and they weren't locked in on him. And obviously Josh Dix, I'm happy for Josh Dix. Like he's a guy I knew through high school, and obviously the leg injury he suffered at the tail end of his high school career, and kind of setbacks from that going into college. It's cool to see him really come into his own this season in particular. It's unfortunate that it had to be 31-7-6 or whatever it was against Nebraska. Hopefully he can do that against other teams instead moving forward. But yeah, I think with Nebraska, it's like whatever it is, home versus road, they've got to find a way. There's always going to be a split home versus road performance, but it can't be so dramatic to where something like that happens where, yeah, you're playing well, and then you just let it slip away and you start making losing plays. You're not locked in. Everybody's not doing their jobs there. So they got to find a way, especially like he said, going to Purdue this weekend. That's a tough place to play as you're going to find in the league. And Purdue's coming off of a big win over Rutgers where they were firmly in control from start to finish in that one. So they're feeling good about themselves. So yeah, Nebraska's going to have to find a way to, whatever happened in that second half, they got to make sure it doesn't happen again. So.
Well, Jacob, you could make an argument that Nebraska is starting their conference slate, at least their road conference slate, with 3 of the 5 hardest places to go and play. I mean, Carver Hawkeye just feels like there's some sort of voodoo magic there at all times where Iowa's going to find a way. East Lansing's really tough, and now you're off to Mackey. Like, that's 3 of the top 5, in my opinion. Would you agree with that? It's just a brutal opening road stretch to the conference slate for Nebraska, even considering what happened last year with Nebraska's road victory or road losses, I should say. Yeah,
no doubt. That's why it hurts letting that Iowa game slip away, because they had that one. They were in firm control of that game and couldn't find a way to finish it off. And that's a big thing with college basketball. It's like when you have an opportunity to do something that wasn't expected or that can really boost your resume, you have to take advantage of it. Like Creighton's in the same spot with that loss to Marquette, where they feel like going in, they did enough to give themselves a chance and couldn't find a way to pull it off. So now moving forward, you have to find a way to replicate that effort and then push it over the top and actually get it done in order to get that big win for your resume and to feel good about what you're capable of and all that type of thing. So, I mean, the later you get in the season, the less opportunities for that there are. So that's where it hurts when you let things like this slip away, because he said they're not going to get any easy road wins coming up here over the next couple of weeks.
Jacob Padilla is with us. Hail Varsity, Hurrdat Sports, at Jacob Padilla _ on Twitter. Jacob, a thought on high school basketball, 9 to 10 games into this season. I know Papio South came into the week ranked number 1, West Side right there. Millard South 3, and then Prep in at 4. I'll see Prep tomorrow against North Star. Excited about that. What are your impressions so far? I know we just laid out the rankings, but what's the gap from 1 to 5? What's the gap? What have you soaked in with the Metro, Lincoln, and Omaha? We'll get a chance to see Prep in North Star tomorrow, but Southeast and Northeast was a classic you touched on. What are you feeling so far as we are getting closer to February?
Yeah, I think it pretty much is what we thought it was going to be going in, where the top is much closer to the middle than it has been in recent years. And that makes for more exciting matchups on a weekly basis and more intrigue, more uncertainty about the season as a whole and where it's going to end. And that's exciting. Like, yeah, it's nice having high major guys running around. Like we've been spoiled with some of the individual talent we've had come through here, and the way that individual talent was stacked on a few teams in particular. But this is a different way to enjoy high school basketball, where any given night, anybody has a chance to lose. You can go out there, and I think Westside looked like the best team through the first few weeks of the season, and then that Metro final, Papio South knocked them off. And Papio South, they had, I think, probably the best player in the state in Bryson Ball, but he wasn't even the one that won that game for them. Like, he didn't make a three. He had an off shooting game. It was Levi Webb, a sophomore, who is a good player, but hadn't done anything like that previously. Went out for 27 points on super efficient rates there. So it's going to come down to like which kids step up. And we saw that Lincoln Southeast North Star game I mentioned was Eric Houston. I think for my money, he's probably the best player in Lincoln, and put his team on his back, put up 21 in the first half. And then the second half, they really started swarming him, filling the gaps or whatever. And he was making plays, getting the ball to other guys. And then down the stretch, he stepped up again and made some big plays, finished with 34, I think it was in that. And he's had some big ones already, averaging about 28 a game this season. So I think teams that, and that's where Southeast was looking like the best team in Lincoln. North Star's in that mix. Northeast was 5-3 going in that game. Then you go off and win at Southeast. Like, that's not, I don't think anybody expected that, but they had a guy like Lazarick that they could rely on. So that's where you look at Papio South with Bryson Ball, Northeast with Lazarick Houston. You got these teams that have some of these kids that can step up and make a difference individually. You have a chance to win on any given night. And like I said, I think that makes for a really exciting season. Jacob,
last thought here, about 60 seconds. You mentioned a couple guys, Ball and Houston. They are atop my list of the must-see players in Nebraska high school basketball. Is there any other names you want to highlight of guys that, if you're getting out to go watch high school basketball, you should go and see before the year's up?
I mean, just hard to narrow it down. Like, Robbie Garcia is another guy that's having a great senior season for a young WS team, putting up some big numbers there. Brock Scholl at Omaha Scott is going to stay home, play for Omaha next year. As there a few of the guys there. Trinell Parker, you'll get a good look at him. He's got a kind of really unorthodox post game. It's kind of fun to watch as well. So we got a lot of guys that are maybe not necessarily high major kids running around, but D2, fringe D1, guys that are having great seasons. So you can just kind of look around. A bunch of teams have guys like that.
Jacob, enjoy your weekend, bud. Appreciate your insight as always. Thanks for giving us some time today.
All right. Good to talk to you guys.
And go Pack, go, Jacob. Go Pack, go. I'm sorry about what I said.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with him there. All right. We'll get to the Friday forecast, college football playoff, NFL wildcard weekend. What's Clausborne say? He's next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. It's the Friday edition of Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel can find us. Follow us on Hail Varsity YouTube to watch the show. Weekend edition tomorrow at 7:45-ish. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter can watch that way and give us a follow there at Herbalescence. For Elijah at Schmidt_radio. Thank you, by the way, for tweeting out that picture of me bundling up in sub-zero weather, Elijah, and then frightening folks with that are manning the convenience store.
I didn't frighten them. You frightened them. Let's make that clear. Let's not blame me for everything.
That has happened before. You walk in all bundled up and someone freaks out behind the counter. No, I've just got precious lungs.
No, this is just my rucking vest. I swear.
Jeez. Without further ado, he's imaginary. He wears red and he knows how to pick them because he said Notre Dame 27, Penn State 24 last Friday on the forecast for the CFP. Clausborne is with us. Claus, how are you?
Well, I'm doing okay, and after last night's game, I'm now going by Claustradamus, and I believe that, Elijah, you're going to want to take some notes. If you need to hit that parlay and fund your activities, here's where you get the money.
I love it.
Will do, Claus.
Claus, have you been to a bachelor party before?
Not since Devaney's fourth bachelor party. He wasn't a bachelor. He just wanted to go to Vegas. So that's what we did.
Love it. All righty then. Off to the college football playoff we go. Is snowy Dallas, right? Old Jerry World, though, going to be nice and warm. I don't know that there's enough home cooking in Big D for Texas to find their way over Ohio State. I think it's Ohio State by plenty. Give me the Buckeyes 34. Give me Texas 17. Monster outright win and cover for Ohio State. What do you say, Elijah?
I think you'll know how close this game is going to be by the end of the first quarter. Either Ohio State runs away with it or it's going to be a close ball game. I think Texas has enough athletes. This is going to be a close ball game. I think 6 is too many points, especially as Schmidt laid out with potential home cooking. If not home cooking, at least a great Texas contingent being there at the game tonight despite the weather. So I think Ohio State wins it. I think Texas covers. Give me 31-28. Ohio State wins it in a close ball game.
Okay. Claus, who you rooting for? Ohio State or Texas -6 Buckeyes?
Well, Christopher, you mentioned the winter storm, which initially made me think that perhaps it would only be the experienced winter driving Ohio State fans that would even make it to the game and give them advantage. But that storm sort of came in weaker and went out faster than anyone expected, which is a lot like every Texas head football coach between Mack and Sark. So I like Ohio State in this one. I like the young freshman receiver, Jeremiah, almost a perfect name. I'll take Ohio State 31 and Texas 21.
Okay, Claus says Ohio State to win and cover. On to the NFL, Denver, Buffalo. Give me the Bills to win. Give me Denver to cover. And I like the Bills 28-21 over Denver. Too few, too many, just right point-wise. Elijah, what do you say?
I'm going with my heart here. Give me the Broncos. I think that Bills defense...
Outright?
The Bills defense, as Danny Burke said yesterday, can be a little bit susceptible. The Broncos have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and defense travels in the NFL. I think it's a close ball game. The magic of Bo Nix, I believe. Give me the Broncos. I'll get one more for you, Schmitty. I'm taking
Bo-Leavers.
I'm a Bo-Leaver. I'm taking that Bo Zimpic, baby. The Broncos win it by a score. Higher scoring, I think. Give me Broncos 34 and Bills 28.
Okay. You know, you got two streets to go on here with old Josh Allen. Snubbed on the Pro Bowl. Does he take it personally, or does he try and do too much? And is it turnover, Joshy? Claus, what do you say here, Buffalo or Denver?
Well, first of all, I think Elijah has been sampling a little bit too much of Colorado's product if he thinks it's going to be that high scoring of a game with the Bronco win. But then again, I haven't watched a whole lot of Bronco football this year.
Nobody has.
In fact, well, that's true. In fact, I was fairly sure that Bo Nix was one of those pills that I keep getting emails to try. So I found some at a gas station. I might see what's going on by the fire later on if you catch my drift. Speaking of drifts, no one knows snow and no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, 28, and the Broncos 17.
Texans, Chargers, give me the Fighting Harbaughs. Texans started off hot. They have been in a tailspin. I like Herbert and company, 27-24 over the Texans. Elijah, then Claus.
Yeah, I got the Chargers defense winning the day for them. Give me the Chargers 21 and the Texans 13.
Okay. Claus, your turn.
Batman and Robin, Rogers and Hammerstein, Ben and Jerry, Tom and Jerry, Christopher and Elijah. All iconic duos, but none more iconic than the Houston Texans in the 2:30 Saturday wildcard weekend window. I think they can pull this one off. It'll be an upset, but they win 21 and the Chargers 20.
Okay, 1-pointer. Pittsburgh's at Baltimore, -9.5. Pittsburgh's been rough in December. Russ has been rougher than sandpaper. And give me Lamar and company to change that narrative. 31-17, Baltimore over Pittsburgh.
This feels like the ultimate stay-away spot. The Steelers tend to blow it in the divisional round of the postseason. Right now it's the wild card round. I don't like Russ. And the Steelers have been playing bad, so everything's kind of telling me, like, take the Ravens. But something about the Steelers and Mike Tomlin makes me not want to bet against them. That being said, give me the Ravens to win this game 27-17. And I won't be a happy camper. I think it's going to be a bit of a gross ball game, but the Ravens get it done. They advance.
Claus, you like Baltimore or Pittsburgh?
Well, I had heard there were some questions around the health of Zay Flowers, but let me tell you something. Lamar Jackson, he don't need no Zay Flowers. He'll take the game in his hands, hand off to Henry for hours, make plays you don't understand. Baltimore 34 and Pittsburgh 10.
I didn't have Claus down as a Miley Cyrus fan. Interesting.
Love it. We'll sneak in Green Bay at Philly. Too much Philly, too much running game. And the Eagles 24 and Green Bay 21. But Philly doesn't cover, but they win outright. Go for it, Elijah.
I don't like Nick Sirianni. I like Matt LaFleur. Give me the Packers 24, the Eagles 21.
Okay. Claus, settle it here. Philly or Green Bay?
Well, I was going to write another song for this one, but Cheesehead Philly just doesn't have the same ring to it. Plus, I'd need backup singers, and I know I can't count on you. So just give me the Packers in this one, 21, and the Eagles 17.
Claus, hang tight. We'll wrap up the forecast on Hail Varsity.
Okay.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Time Friday edition. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Clausborne is with us. Tuck is giving you a thumbs up with a cappella Clausborne. Bongway is checked in. And I believe more from Game Dog. Appreciate Game Dog saying, hey. Let's get back to the forecast. Wild card weekend to NFL. And a reminder, locally in Lincoln, we'll be covering the Southeast-Southwest game. And we'll have Marion and Prep girls-boys doubleheader tomorrow. And that gets going around 5:30. Here we go with more of the forecast. Where did we leave off? We left off with Philly and Green Bay, didn't we?
Yes.
Is that it? Tampa hosting Washington. Daniels is, well, he is smooth, man. He is good. Washington's been fun. But Baker Mayfield in Tampa has been incredible. Got to go homer on this in a tight line with Levante and Trey Palmer, right? Give me Tampa to move on and cover the 3. I think they're going to need to score some points. I think 35-28's the number. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I think it's overs and Tampa to cover the 3, Elijah.
I think Tampa wins. I like Jaden Daniels. I really do. I think they put up one hell of a fight. Dan Quinn's also a great head coach. I think they put up a fight. I think the experience of Baker Mayfield wins out, and I think the Buccaneers get a 30-28 win. That is a Commanders cover, but a Buccaneers win.
All right, Claus, where are we going here? Washington or Tampa?
Well, I know Washington fans are upset after a long, successful year that they're not hosting a playoff game. However, keep in mind, last time the Red Scarmanders football team, or whatever they're calling themselves now, had a young, exciting rookie Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, it was their home field that ended his career, so they should probably be happy with what they got. I think they actually win this one in a similar score to what you picked, 31-28, and just be grateful for Daniels, because your last quarterback like him, his most recent accomplishment was taking a picture of himself eating a croissant that Schmidt uses instead of the Bonix pills that we all get emails about. So
That's horrible. That picture was horrible, too.
But not wrong.
Okay. Vikings, Rams down in Arizona. Rams -3. Everyone's piling on the Fighting Dwight Schrutes. Give me the Vikings. 27-21 over the Rams.
This one's tough. I was on the Rams until the game got moved down to Arizona. Now I think I'm on the Vikings. So give me the Vikings to win this football game. I think a little bit higher scoring. Let's go 35-31.
Claus, end it for us, partner. Rams or Vikings, -3 LA.
Well, I know the Rams players would love to play the hero this week, but as we learned this week, for the 50th year running, the biggest hero in LA remains Steve Guttenberg. Plus, with the game being in Arizona, I believe Minnesota has gotten themselves a default home game with all the snowbirds. So give me the Vikings 24 and the Rams 21.
Claus, we appreciate you. We'll holler next time, okay?
Okay.
There he goes, Claus. Get the podcast and find us on Hail Varsity YouTube. Back tomorrow at 7:45-ish.